Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for joining today's SCOMathon webinar, which is all about maintenance mode, which is a kind of an odd topic because I don't think we've ever touched on maintenance mode in the however many years, 5 years we've been doing SCOMathon for now. So it's about time we touch this topic by looking at some best practices. And don't worry, it's not just me. I have a star speaker with me in the form of Jonas Lenntun from Opslogix. You're hopefully in the background, lurking in the wings. Welcome to the stage, Jonas. How are you doing?
Hi there, Bruce. Thank you for having me on board. I'm doing just fine, and you?
Yeah, I'm all right, thank you. Good to have you with us. So you're hopefully going to share some best practices. I have some, but I definitely need your input. And that's obviously because of your background. Opslogix are both a software vendor, but also consultants. So you do have a different kind of perspective from me, being a software guy.
Yeah, I'm hoping to give some advice, or at least around the discussions that we're having. I'm not sure, the best practices is pretty different between different organizations and how they kind of manage their maintenance windows, etc. So
it's always one of the challenges of the topic. All right, so let's kick off then. I'm just going to do a little bit of scene setting. I'd be very surprised if anyone on the call doesn't know what maintenance mode is. But really quickly, let's just cover why do we need maintenance mode? What problem does it solve? So consider the case where you've got a bunch of servers, some infrastructure, and you need to patch it. You switch it off, and you don't have maintenance mode. Your alert queue is going to immediately fill up with stuff because all of the things that your SCOM deployment is monitoring is suddenly going to throw errors, unsurprisingly. The same scenario with maintenance mode in place. You put those machines into maintenance mode, turn them off, and you don't get those alerts. But the idea is then you take it out of maintenance mode to bring it back online. And then if there are alerts that are of relevance, you will see only those alerts, which is important. Because let's face it, stuff breaks when you patch boxes, when you reboot them. So I'd be very surprised, like I say, if there are any folk here that don't know what it is and why they need it. That's a good tiny bit of scene setting. So now I guess this is where we're going to start dipping into best practices. So there are two different ways in which you can put machines into maintenance mode. This is obviously a GIF of the SCOM console, putting an individual box in maintenance mode manually on demand. And here we're saying we're going to put this into maintenance mode for 30 minutes manually. It's possible, it works. The other option we have, also from the SCOM console, is scheduled. And you have the ability to schedule one time, daily, weekly, or monthly. And I'm sure you guys are all fairly familiar with what these options kind of look like. So that's all good, Bruce. But what about those best practices? This is where I bring in Jonas for some best practices. What do we do with this capability from Microsoft?
Yeah, I was trying to actually find different categories that we can discuss on the topics of the maintenance. I know that there have been development on the maintenance mode side in SCOM for a couple of years now. Before we didn't have the ability to actually schedule the maintenance, and we had to rely on third-party integrations to actually being able to do that. But I also think it's pretty important to also discuss how to manage the unplanned or the unscheduled maintenance mode that's actually going on. And I think that's the discussions that we are having is that this is a big problem when you have maybe external contractors that is logged on to a machine who actually doesn't really know about how the whole monitoring setup actually works within an organization. They might just go in and restart the whole machine, for example, without actually knowing that it will start the whole escalation process with incidents, etc. So I think that the discussions is that there is a combination actually of different scenarios that you need to take care of, depending on how your organization works. And you have some stuff that you can do in Squared Up, right, Bruce, with on demand and with scheduled maintenance, right?
Both, yeah, we have the ability to do both now.
Yeah,
we will see that very soon.
Exactly. And what we actually tried was to fill the gap when it came to the unplanned maintenance to actually reduce stuff. And I know that you got a little surprise for me to see a little package that we have. We have a lot of solutions actually that we have developed that is not productized from our side that we have inside our service delivery, where we both manage SCOM environments, but also in our consultancy projects. We have a huge tool set that our developers have created for us to actually take care of small different issues that you have inside of SCOM. And this tool is actually something that listens in and try to reduce the noise from these unplanned maintenance. Then, of course, your organization needs to set a policy if you're even allowed to use this, because if somebody goes in and restart a machine, it might actually have to create an incident because it's not sanctionized.
Makes total sense. Yeah. So ultimately what you're saying is, trying to bring more of those unplanned maintenance events, essentially, when people are just restarting stuff, and making more of them kind of planned and handling the ones that are unplanned better in SCOM, so you don't have that sea of alerts.
Yeah, exactly. Because what you can do is you can reduce the alerts while doing reboots of machines, for example. Yeah. But then you can alert on the unsanctioned restart instead, and perhaps take action on that. So you're not getting all these alert storms that you might end up when people are just restarting the machines.
Makes total sense. And the thing there that's sort of obvious, you've sort of highlighted, is it's going to be different for different companies. Some companies won't have the notion of an unsanctioned restart, whereas for most, I would imagine that's going to be a big deal.
Yeah, and I think that many people will be surprised on how many restarts they actually have on machines. So this is pretty interesting to see when you just introduce this one and they see how many machines are actually restarted during ordinary business hours as well. And on the second topic, I know that we're talking about putting a lot of stuff into maintenance when you have your maintenance schedules or windows and you're doing patching, etc. But we also know that there is a lot of organizations that are actually using SCOM as a tool during these hours, and they don't want to put the stuff into maintenance because they kind of go blind. So, for example, if you are synchronizing the schedules from SCCM, they're usually divided into waves. So you might have like 1,000 machines going down into maintenance. They will be down for 1 or 2 hours. And the people, if there are people actually working during these maintenance windows, they will be completely blind. So we see a lot of times when we do have people working during these maintenance windows that they are actually using SCOM as a tool to see when these reboots are being done, that the machine, when it reboots, it gets up. If it throws an error, if it might be a service that is not starting, they can immediately take action on it. Even though it's an allowed service window, they can actually work on the machine one by one instead of having to wait until that whole wave is over, and then they might have 50 alerts to work on. The only thing that's really important then is, of course, that you need to kind of disable if you have any integrations towards a ticketing system or any notification channels. So try to kind of shut that off so you're not creating incidents. But there's so many ways, good ways, that you can actually use SCOM as a tool during patching. You can verify that all the updates has successfully been installed. The machines should be rebooted most time after any reboot, etc. So you can use SCOM with custom management packs, custom scripts to actually in real time verify that the patching windows is going as expected.
Cool. Yeah, makes sense. Makes total sense.
And the third part here is actually also something that we discussed a little bit earlier when we talked, Bruce, and that is to actually group your different objects into groups or distributed applications. And the thing that we discussed earlier was how do we manage watcher nodes, because they have always been kind of an issue. When you have like a web watcher or TCP port or whatever, they don't usually sit on the same machine as that they are watching.
Yeah.
And I'm a big fan of actually using distributed applications to group different objects inside of SCOM into like business services or technical services or business services. And you can actually, by using, for example, Squared Up, you can put that whole delivery into maintenance, for example, and you include the watchers for each object that you have there.
I just want to add a bit there. I completely essentially agree that DAs, thinking about things more as applications that provide value to the business, is definitely the right thing as opposed to sort of infrastructure. The risk I see or have seen in the past is when people are thinking about it through the lens of infrastructure only, they'll miss bits and pieces out of the makeup of an application when handling something like patching.
Yeah.
So DAs or Squared Up EAs make total sense.
And it can be, problematic if you organize your application and you include like infrastructure objects because the people wants to see, performance, etc. And then you could give permissions to the team that they can put their own application into maintenance, but it could also actually take the machines, all the machines that were part of that application, and that could be an unsanctioned action also. So of course you need to be aware, but a lot of times we see that the different application teams, they are kind of owning their whole application, and if they have something urgent that they need to do to put it down, it's not the worst case if the Windows machines, etc., would actually go into maintenance at the same time.
Makes sense. Agreed.
And the last thing is to actually make use of external sources. You could use like a CMDB, for example, and I think you had something, Bruce, on that topic, right?
Very much so, very much so. So you sort of touched on it earlier on with raising incidents, but yeah, CMDB is another important piece of the puzzle.
And you can actually use like source triggered mechanism where you could read out information from, for example, from vCenter. If hosts are in maintenance, you can use HPE. I think OneView in that management pack, you can actually read if the sources from HPE or from vCenter, etc. If they have tagged, if the team has tagged them as under maintenance, you could read that and put the objects into maintenance as well. The only thing that you need to be aware of is that if you have you have a slight delay between SCOM actually reading with the discovery interval of that object, so you might need to include some type of trigger function actually that's reading that in a more frequent manner to put the objects as soon as they are being sent into maintenance in the source system, that it kind of triggers SCOM to put it into maintenance. And that's something that usually goes a little bit custom. It's difficult to wait because discovery intervals they're not running that frequently. So you can actually end up with a pretty large or huge delay in it, and it could cause that the alerts are actually thrown because it didn't have time to be set into maintenance. So there's how to say, it's many ways to skin a cat, and I think it kind of depends a little bit on how you handle your incidents and your events. You might have other systems like ServiceNow, the whole event management module. You could have Omnibus from IBM and multiple other ways, and many they actually put they suppress their alerting in there, so they don't care in SCOM about maintenance mode at all. So it all depends on your organization, how you work with it, how which tools you're using, and how the process looks like. But I think that at least you have a working version with the stuff that I talked about on how to actually manage the unscheduled maintenance, please.
I do. Right, this is demo time, so we're going to jump across to my SCOM management server. So hopefully that's clear enough. So what are we looking at?
Well, to start with, we have something in the folder called, so our managed service delivery is based on a framework that we have delivered or developed called, we can name it digital operations. It's about like automating many of the tasks within SCOM, and you have one of the solutions imported here that we refer to as an autonomous maintenance mode. This one actually listens in on events, like shutdown events from different sources at the computer, and it could be from SCCM, it can be from VMware, it can be user initiated. This one is, it doesn't look too much when you look at it, but the key thing that we do here is that we are just listening in on the event, but the workflow is being sent directly to the management servers. So even if the machine goes down, it doesn't abort the workflows, because that could be a problem if you're actually asking the agent by itself to actually put it into maintenance. It needs to have the DLLs and all of that stuff. So it just listens on the event, sends it over, and then the management servers actually creates it, reads the event, it creates tasks, so it queues up tasks in SCOM. And the reason why we did that is that we're not hitting the limit on how many PowerShell scripts you can run on the management server. So this one just queues up the tasks. And if you have, for example, 500, 1,000 machines, you can have a lot of tasks, and it would just start going through them. But one thing that is pretty special with this one is that, for example, if you have a website that's already under maintenance on the machine and you put that object into maintenance, one big issue with SCOM over the years has been that you release that maintenance when you end the maintenance problem. So by being able to actually taking care of the workflows from the management servers, we can read out from that object if it has any sub-objects or child objects that's already in maintenance, and it can save that away. And then when the maintenance mode is released, it applies that back to it, so you don't get alerts after maintenance schedule as well.
Makes sense. So we're going to see this all in action, because seeing is believing.
Yeah, and hopefully it works. But like we said as well, sometimes if you have like a newly installed machine that just goes under maintenance and reboots directly, it's going to be very difficult to catch that event. But usually, if that is the case with the machine, it goes so fast up again, so SCOM wouldn't even notice that the machine has rebooted.
Yeah.
So we'll see if this works.
Let's see. Yeah. So let's start with the simple case then of rebooting a whole machine. So I'm going to go to computers in maintenance, just going to refresh just to prove we've got this one box here in maintenance right now. And we're going to restart something. We're going to be brave. We're going to restart this guy here, which is called Op-Web01. So nothing up my sleeve. It is not in maintenance. It is up. We're looking at it right now. And we're going to effectively perform an unplanned restart. Restart. There we go. And this is an unplanned restart. Let's do it. And
of course, we will have the demo gods with us as usual.
Of course. This is a demo lab after all. So I'm going to keep smashing refresh. There you go. You can see it come in. It's now in maintenance mode. So
what you will see to start with is that you can look in the shutdown events. You will see that you have some user initiated reboots. So this is where it gets triggered, and this is something that you can actually put the alerting on as well. So this is nothing, there's nothing special going on here, but it's one way to actually catch these things. So here you can see which machines has been rebooted. You collect the information as well about who's doing what time it's been rebooted. When it reads this one, it will create a task and it will queue it up. It's probably already on the finished because this one has already been done. And you can probably see some output in the output window. And these different rules that we have, so we have one specific for the SCCM, one for user initiated, and one for VMware. And you can actually put different overrides. So for example, if a user puts the machine into and just restart it, it can go maybe 5 or 10 minutes into maintenance. But if you know that SCCM is the one who's actually initiating the restart, you can change it so the interval is actually 30 minutes when SCCM goes in, because usually it patches, it restarts, goes up, does some more patching, down, and back up again. So usually want a little bit more time than just an ordinary restart of it, for example. And of course, you could restart a machine through vCenter. So we're also trying to use, and we can, this is independent, we can use just the VMware tools to read out is the restart initiated from VMware instead. And this actually solves a lot of the noise for many of our customers. So we try to implement that in most of our engagements that we do today. And that's part of kind of the whole framework on how we deliver SCOM to our customers. That's been under development for over 10 years with the group of SCOM consultants that we have on board here.
Very cool, very cool. So with that in mind, I'm going to bring in now Squared Up. So I'm just going to quickly give this a refresh to check I'm still logged in. And of course, it's logged me out. But luckily, my credentials are saved, so I can get back in easily enough. We're looking at a dashboard with all of those servers on it. So this will also pick up when something is in maintenance mode or powered off, as this box was that I showed at the beginning. So looks like we're still in maintenance mode for this guy. Well, it shouldn't be that long before it's back up. Let's try reconnecting to it quickly.
Yeah. So to start with, it will not release the maintenance mode when it's up. It will actually wait the predefined minutes at this time. So
makes sense. Let's drill into it then. Have a look at it. What does it say? Looks like it's just about coming up. There we go. So it is alive again. That's its console, obviously. And I can see that it's due to end in 2 minutes' time when I click on maintenance mode within Squared Up, which is cool. So if we were to wait 2 minutes, we'd see essentially it come out of maintenance mode, which is good. But the point is that while this is in maintenance mode, you're not being spammed by all the alerts that would be generated.
Yeah.
As you can see from the list of sort of perspectives, this is a web server. So when it is back up, we're going to test out what you suggested. The whole thing about it not taking the components underneath it out of maintenance mode when it goes into maintenance mode next. I think that's a good place to go. Let's see, how long have we got? If we've got ends in a minute, while we're waiting for this to come back out of maintenance mode. It's too close to the end for me to want to end it manually, knowing SCOM and how long it takes for things in some cases. I'm going to switch gears a little bit and start talking about scheduled maintenance mode. So if I were to drill into these list of computers, there are 35 computers here, and some of them are going to be in maintenance mode, some of them are going to be on, some of them are going to be off. There are cases, especially if you use ITIL, where you're going to want to not just catch when people restart something, but to look at schedules. And scheduled maintenance mode is a capability of SCOM, obviously, but also of dashboard service since our 6.3 release. So if I wanted to create a schedule for this one Web01 box, we've only got a few seconds to wait. Look, that's good news. We could come in here and we could create a new schedule for this box. All of the options in here are as you would expect to see in the SCOM console, which is great. But the important point here to emphasize is this list of objects at the top is the list of objects you see from the dashboards. The point is this is contextual. So it's fine, we get a large list when we're looking at a list of 35 machines. But if I were to go back to this Server 2016 dashboard and click on only the 4 warnings, for example, we only should have 4 machines here. None of these are in maintenance mode. If I click the maintenance mode button, yes, I can see none are in maintenance mode. But the most useful point about this is the context. So I can see these 3 schedules only apply to these 4 objects. I don't see the full list, as you see in the SCOM console. We've found from our customers that in large customer deployments, having that context is so valuable because, rather than sifting through a list of 100 schedules, potentially, you've got just the ones that apply to the scope you're looking at. And obviously you can edit them and disable them and whatnot, as well as put the objects in question into maintenance mode. So here we have just these 4 boxes that we could put into maintenance mode. So that's one of the best practices that I would recommend, using scheduled maintenance mode contextually and in line with ITIL and your change requests from your ITSM tool. I'm going to go back now to that box, which should be the one we were playing with. Should now be in the healthy category, and it was called Web01. It's still connected. Look here, so it's alive. Op Web01. Let's see if it's back up. Web01. Let's drill in. Are we still in maintenance mode? End time 2 minutes ago. Oh, so it's not been taken out of maintenance mode from the looks of things. Should I just do it manually? I feel I should do it just manually. Let's edit this instance and stop. Maintenance mode from within squared up. And come out of this. And we'll give this, we could either wait or I could just cheat and give this a refresh. And we'll see that the machine is now out of maintenance mode. So talk me through essentially how this doesn't take the components out of maintenance mode, if I were to put those in maintenance mode manually.
How it works. So it actually just, it reads out any object that's in maintenance and it saves that into, we add like a JSON object or JSON information on top of the object that actually includes all the entities in maintenance that it kind of reads out. So the script that's running is actually kind of it's ending the maintenance mode just before SCOM was planning to end it. So
I see.
It's able to write it back to it. So.
All right. So with that in mind, then that is a cool and powerful capability because this machine does stuff. Aside from just IIS, it hosts this website, our sales website. If I went into my web server and I put this web server into maintenance mode manually, but not I'm going to do it manually. We're going to create a new maintenance window. We're going to include the contained objects. So the children, you saw them in the hosting stack here. Can't remember what they are, but it doesn't matter for now. And we'll say whatever 300-minute window just to prevent any chance of it coming out of maintenance mode during this webinar. And we'll commit this now. We will see it's in maintenance mode, ends in 5 hours time. Turns out that's what 300 minutes is roughly. And if I refresh, we should see that, of course, it's in maintenance mode. If I go back up to the high-level machine, it is not in maintenance mode, but all of the bits and pieces that we talked about are in maintenance mode. So in theory, if I reboot this box again, let's just bring it on screen quick. Then what should happen is the server itself should get put into maintenance mode. And then, I signed out. I'm so used to hitting Alt F4 to bring up the shutdown menu. Damn. Keyboard shortcuts. Right, so let me get back into this box then quickly. 2 seconds while I find my password. There it is. And here we are back in again. Right, I'm going to use the UI and hit start shutdown rather than rely on the keyboard shortcuts, which won't work in RDP. Start, shutdown, restart, unplanned, yes. Right, so again, we should see this machine is shut down. And as it goes down, we should see the actual machine itself get put into maintenance mode, of course, in addition to the components, which are already in maintenance mode. And look, there it goes. So your scripts have picked it up, and it is now in maintenance mode. Ta-da! And it's in maintenance mode, ending in 5 minutes' time, assuming that SCOM does its thing and takes it out of maintenance mode when it's supposed to.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit strange that it didn't end because there is a fallback mechanism. So if the script doesn't pick it up, at least SCOM should put it out of its misery, right? So, yeah, I will blame that on the demo environment.
Yeah, I blame this on SCOM. We're dealing with a 5-minute maintenance mode window after all. You know, SCOM is a distributed system. It's designed to be very resilient, but not very responsive. And so I feel I would be very surprised if this isn't down to demo labs and a really short maintenance window.
Yeah, but in theory, it should work like so. It's actually reading out which objects you put in maintenance. Yeah, and it will put it in like a small JSON file, attach it to the object itself, and then before it just releases the schedule, it tries to end it just before SCOM is trying to end it and rewrite the information back into maintenance on the machine.
Makes sense. So while we're waiting for this to happen, shall we start talking about DAs and EAs? And that's probably a good segue. So we talked earlier on in your slides around how DAs are distributed applications are a much more sensible approach rather than dealing with individual bits of infrastructure.
Yeah.
So I've got a couple of DAs here, and I've got some squared up enterprise applications, which are effectively DAs with some extra capabilities that don't matter for the purposes of this webinar.
Yep.
So this is a DA that we kind of created earlier that has nothing in it. It's like a shell essentially.
Yeah.
But the point here is that we have some components here which are effectively groups, if I'm not right, that could not wrong, that could contain.
Yeah. Exactly. I wouldn't ever recommend that when you're working with distributed application that you use the designer to work with it, because they use explicit objects, and it doesn't take many days before it gets out of date, and you will have a big Christmas tree instead. So what we do, we have done this script-based instead. So you just run a script, creates these different groups, and then you use the groups actually to populate what you want to have in your DA, so using like dynamic group memberships, etc. So you don't end up with this Christmas tree in the end.
Makes it easier to manage what's actually in a DA. Essentially, makes total sense.
Yeah.
And as far as maintenance mode is concerned, we talked about the benefits of dealing with DAs and EAs over regular infrastructure, because the whole point here is if I put this into maintenance mode, I can include the contained objects, as I showed you earlier. You can do this in the SCOM console. You don't need squared up for this piece particularly. And, all of those groups and their children will also be put into maintenance mode. And if their, members are populated dynamically, then it will just be, by default, the right pieces.
Yeah, and you can do this, on demand, or you can do it using the schedules built in SCOM or in squared up.
Yeah. So we could here create a schedule for this. Let's do it. Why not? So we want to include the contained objects. This is my Bruce's demo schedule. And let's have this be a weekly schedule happening every week on a Monday, a Thursday, and a Sunday. Why not? For 30 minutes. So it's long enough that SCOM can actually handle the fact it's going to happen. Let's set an expiry just so future Bruce doesn't forget this thing is kind of like running. Let's say the 16th, and create this schedule. Now, obviously, this is a demo lab. I can just fiddle around and do what I want here. If you're doing this in production, you would give this a sensible name that corresponded to the name of the DA. We have our demo lab is a perfect example of actually how not to do it when it comes to maintenance mode schedules. If I go and drill into to my list of servers and click the maintenance mode button and go to schedules, what I will see is a mess, because we use this for all sorts. As you can see from the names of the schedules, so they don't correspond to the objects that are in them. They're not descriptive or particularly helpful. We do kind of help you out by showing you essentially who it is that put the thing, who created the schedule. So if you've got some like wildly named schedule, PW test 2, I can see that Paul was the guy that created this. I can go and ask Paul, hey, what the hell is this? And of course we can edit it as we could do in the SCOM console. But we're helped by the fact we've got that context. All right, so from the looks of things, our Web01 box is due to end maintenance mode in a few seconds. So I'm going to cancel out of this and go find it quickly. And hopefully we'll just about catch the moment that the magic happens. Let's see. How long have we got? And meant to end a few seconds ago. So I get the feeling it's not going to work as it should, but let us see. The joys of a live demo.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm a little bit. It's a little bit strange that either way that the ordinary ending time doesn't get applied here.
Indeed, that is bizarre. This is a demo lab after all, and we have been kicking it for maintenance mode because we were testing the maintenance mode functionality. So I'm going to blame the demo gods and the demo lab here.
I think that the biggest usage, at least for this one, is to catch these, unplanned restarts. That's the biggest use case that we see from the usage of this management pack.
Which makes sense. Prevents the alert noise.
Yeah.
Cool. Is there anything else you wanted to show for us to say a little bit about ITSM and change requests?
No, nothing to show, nothing to talk about, but I do think it's very important. We use a lot of well, we extend a lot of the objects in SCOM by adding classification or data on top of technical, like organizational data. And I think that synchronizing that type of information on top of SCOM gives you, a greater flexibility to use grouping, use DAs, just by saying that, is this machine in production or not? Is it under decommissioning? You can do so much with SCOM to automate all the tasks if you do that. So that's something that we also bring in to add another additional layer with information that you can actually add on top of the technical information that you already have in SCOM.
I agree. The power of auto group population.
Yeah.
So just a teeny bit then on sort of change requests. I haven't got anything to show for this, so I'm just going to say it, essentially. So one of our products under sort of the Cookdown brand is our Connection Center suite of products that we essentially send those SCOM alerts up to ServiceNow. We have bidirectional sync capabilities in there, so we can pull the incident numbers back from ServiceNow into SCOM, which is all very cool. But as far as maintenance mode is concerned, there are a few things. Look, here we go. This is just come out of maintenance mode. It looks like it was SCOM that did it, because it has done something with the child components. Yeah. So they're going to come back essentially and recalculate their health. Anyway, as I was saying, so we send SCOM alerts up to ServiceNow and incidents are raised for them. But let's say you haven't got Jonas's awesome management pack that will handle the unplanned reboots. We have a feature in there that will detect when the server is down and suppress essentially incident creation for those alerts that are pushed up that you're not necessarily expecting because the server is down and you haven't put the machine into maintenance mode. That's one of the defenses that we built into that product over the years on the basis of what our customers were kind of telling us. The other thing, which is kind of more powerful, but I haven't got it to show today, is the ability to actually create maintenance mode schedules from within ServiceNow, and ideally hook them up to your change request process. Because if you think about a change request window, you've got a start time and end time, you've got a reason, and you've got all the pieces essentially that you need for maintenance mode in SCOM. So it's possible with Connection Center to actually create maintenance mode windows in SCOM from your ServiceNow change requests, which is one of the recommendations that I would give to anyone using ServiceNow, and essentially, or any change request process that's sort of under ITIL, is hooking up maintenance mode schedules with your change requests via some piece of automation. Now, it doesn't matter whether it's the Cookdown piece or not, because obviously that's just for ServiceNow. You may be using another ITSM tool. The important point is there, you're not double touching, you're not having to do the work twice. And if you are in the position where you don't have that integration, we can handle this case within Squared Up with this context-aware dashboarding, essentially. So as I showed earlier, we're just looking at these 4 objects. If I click on maintenance mode, we could create a schedule just for these 4 that ties up with your change requests in ServiceNow. And I think that's everything I have to say and to show. Is there anything else you wanted to show or say before we go back to slides?
No, I'm pretty done, I think.
All right. Slides, here we come. Cool. Is there anything you want to say to recap, or should I push on?
No, you can push on.
All right, let's push on. So we've done the demo. So all that's really left to say is thank you very much for coming and for watching today's webinar. If you like what you've seen and you want to see more from us here at SCOMathon, it's all on the website, of course, and of course on YouTube as well. So all the links are here. And if there are topics you think that we should be covering, like this one, please do let me know on community.squaredup.com. And of course, I'm sure I can find you a speaker to speak about these topics. So there we go. Obviously, you will have seen who we are at Squared Up. We have 2 products. We've talked about Dashboard Server, which is the one on the left, essentially, which has been around for over 10 years, transforming the lives of people working in and around SCOM. Being your single pane of glass for SCOM and related tools. But we also have a cloud product which brings together information from SCOM, but with all of your other tools to create a true single pane of glass, handling both on-prem tools and cloud tools as well, smart dashboards for all of your tools. And that's who we are. There are a few slides from you, Jonas. I'll let you talk through these.
Yeah, we said that if there's anybody who's kind of interested in the stuff that we mentioned, if you have any other specific requests or challenges that you're trying to solve, you can reach out to us and we can take a discussion to see if you have anything or if we have anything that we can help you with when it comes to the custom stuff that we have developed over the years. There's no reason to kind of invent the wheel again, right? So please keep in touch with us. Of course, we would like to mention a little bit about the stuff that we're doing. And the thing here that I would like to highlight is something that we've seen grown a lot over the years, or the last year, is the Kubernetes management pack that we see now. So many more people are actually adopting Kubernetes, and we've seen that it's kind of a gray area between the people working in cloud tech and they have their own stuff, and after a while they kind of throw it back to IT operations. And we just want to mention that we have a great tool actually to keep an eye on the whole infrastructure of the Kubernetes stuff, and of course the VMware as well. So.
Very cool. It's interesting. One of the future webinars we'll go on to in a bit is the Big SCOM survey. And one of the findings from the Big SCOM survey, which we'll go into detail on that webinar, is people are after something a lot like what you've built. And that's one of the biggest gaps people see with the off-the-shelf management pack offerings, lack of Kubernetes management pack.
And of course, if you are interested in any type of consultancy services, we're here to help. So we provide big team of SCOM specialists, and also for the people who might struggle with getting other assistance in, we can also provide a SCOM as a managed service. So you still own everything, but we're here as an expert team, as your additional advisor as well when it comes to setting up or maintaining a SCOM environment. Also, of course, with the development part, because that's kind of within our DNA, of course.
Very cool. Makes sense. So just a quick plug for the next coffee break webinar, which is going to be on Linux agents, kind of broadly, but focusing specifically on failed agent upgrades and what you can do about them. And for that, I'm going to be joined by Ali, who I think I've seen on this webinar. I've seen Ali is talking in the chat, so he's here today, and he's a consultant with Topcore. So please do join us on the 20th of November for this coffee break. We do have also the Big SCOM survey I mentioned earlier. This is on the 6th of November. I think we moved this. I'll double check that date, where we're going to go through the results of the Big SCOM survey. Of course, registration information and everything is on scomathon.com. So this one will be an interesting one because there are some changes over previous years, which is very cool. So all that's left to do is open the floor to Q&A. If you have any questions, I've seen some come in over the time we've been talking. Please do put them in the chat, and I'll put them to Jonas now, or see if I can answer any of them myself. So the first question is from Stephen, who asks, are there any recommendations on how to deal with alerts coming from dependent servers, most commonly Windows clusters? Any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think that's quite a common case, both from the Windows clusters, but also from applications running on Windows clusters. And usually when it comes to the application that runs on it, you kind of need to make the monitoring cluster aware. So you need to put some logic inside of the management pack to figure out if it's relevant or not. It's a little bit complex to just discuss here, but there is, with SCOM you can do anything. And with if you're talking about the built-in Windows clusters, I think you kind of need to take a look at exactly what type of alerts that are actually being raised and see how to address them. So sometimes it's pretty difficult. Also, if you have just two separate machines, but you're running two services on them, and they can be up on one machine, that's fine. And you kind of need to figure out, okay, should I turn off the alerting function? Should I maybe create a separate group? Should I do a roll-up monitor for it? Do like worst case, best case, or percentage of it? There's multiple ways to do that, but that might also apply within Windows clusters, that you might need to put them in the group and then put a health roll-up monitor to it and configure the how it should roll up actually.
Cool, comprehensive answer. As with quite a lot of things when it comes to SCOM and maintenance mode, the answer is somewhat it depends, because there's a piece about process in there as well, business process.
Yeah, it depends, but you can probably solve it in some way.
Of course. Yeah, as you say, SCOM is very powerful. You can do a lot with it.
Yeah.
Let's see if there are any other questions. I see no other questions in the chat. Let's see if there's any other questions, Payne. Nobody seems to use for some reason. That doesn't much matter. I see no further questions. So all that's left to do is say thank you very much, Jonas, for joining me. I appreciate your input and insights.
Pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
No, always a pleasure. Yeah. And thank you to you at home for watching, whether you're watching live or you're watching the recording. And until next time, big SCOM survey, and of course, Linux agent failed upgrades. We will see you soon. Thank you very much. Have a good rest of the day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.